The Young and the Restless Spoilers shock. On the evening of Friday, May 30th, Genoa City's social elite gathered at the opulent Grand Horizon Ballroom to celebrate Nikki Newman's landmark birthday. The chandeliers glittered like 1,000 frozen stars, casting a warm glow over the sea of designer gowns and bespoke tuxedos. Waiters in crisp white jackets weaved among guests bearing trays of champagne flutes that caught the light in delicate arcs. Laughter tumbled through the air, and the string quartet's melody drifted off toward the lofty ceilings, creating an atmosphere of carefree revelry. Yet beneath the veneer of celebration, a current of whispered speculation pulsed. For weeks, rumors had swirled about Aristotle Dumas, the elusive media magnate whose power in Genoa City was palpable despite his complete absence from public view. Now, as the birthday tribute video rolled across the stage, the collective breath of the room caught in its throat, none more so than the Newmans, who had no idea that Dumas was about to make his presence felt in the most dramatic way imaginable. Just as the final notes of the quartet's prelude faded, the overhead projector flickered. Gasps rippled through the assembled crowd as the giant screen, meant to display cherished moments from Nikki's life, instead went dark. A hush fell, punctuated only by the flutter of panicked whispers. Then, in stark, icy white letters on an inky black background, the words appeared, Nikki Newman, every empire crumbles from within. At midnight, the truth you've buried will rise again. The message hovered for agonizing seconds before the screen snapped off, plunging the ballroom into near-total darkness. Emergency lights clicked on, revealing stunned faces turned toward the stage, eyes wide with a mixture of shock, fear, and disbelief. Champagne glasses trembled in their holders as guests exchanged uneasy glances. Who could have hacked into the venue's AV system so flawlessly, and to what end? At the heart of the storm stood Amanda Sinclair, Dumas's formidable attorney, whose invitation to the event had raised a few eyebrows from insiders aware of her tenuous relationship with the Newman family. Amanda wore a composed expression, though the faintest flicker of tension crossed her eyes. She stepped forward with deliberate calm, phone discreetly activated, and delivered the next lines aloud in a voice that carried through the hushed crowd, Mr. and Mrs. Newman, Aristotle Dumas regrets that he cannot be here in person. He asks that you prepare for revelations that will shake Genoa City's very foundations. By midnight, every secret held within these walls will be laid bare, and no one, no matter how powerful, will escape unscathed. Her words, though measured, rang like a tolling bell. A ripple of stunned silence followed, and then a crescendo of murmurs as incredulous guests seized upon every syllable. Nikki's hand flew to her mouth. Victor's jaw clenched. Nearby socialites checked their watches and mobile phones, trying to confirm that this was no cruel prank. In the seconds that followed, security surged toward the stage, but the projection booth was eerily deserted, its control console wiped clean of logs, cameras blinded by a swift cover-up. Genoa City's finest, alongside the Newman security detail, combed the perimeter to no avail. It was as though Dumas had orchestrated a flawless vanishing act. Meanwhile, gossip instantly rippled outward. Was this a calculated warning tailored specifically against the Newmans? Or was Dumas issuing a broader challenge to every power broker in town? Speculation ran wild. Some whispered about corporate malfeasance at Newman Enterprises, others hinted at family skeletons waiting to tumble out of their closets. The notion that Dumas, a man of untold resources and unconfirmed motives, had chosen Nikki's celebration as the stage for his debut only deepened the mystery. What truth did he intend to expose, and what did he stand to gain from sending shockwaves through Genoa City's political and social order? By the time midnight neared, the ballroom had emptied, leaving behind scattered confetti, half-drunk flutes of champagne, and a lingering sense of unease that no amount of polite chatter could dispel. Figures moved with caution as they departed, Victor, his mind already racing through possible corporate contingencies, Nikki, pale but resolute, vowing to confront whatever lay ahead, and Amanda, who slipped away almost unnoticed, her role as messenger complete. In private conversations and secure phone calls alike, the message of Aristotle Dumas became a call to arms, or to shelter, depending on one's vantage point. CEOs convened emergency board meetings. Legal teams pored over decades of correspondence. Even the lowest-level staffers at Newman Enterprises found themselves questioned about long-forgotten memos and offhand remarks. Every corner of the company felt the tremor of Dumas's threat, reminding Genoa City that sometimes the most potent power is exercised not through visibility, but through the artful manipulation of expectation and dread. In the days that followed, the city braced itself for the coming reckoning. Journalists scrambled to obtain interviews with insiders, speculating on Dumas's endgame. Alliance charts were redrawn. Who stood to benefit from a weakened Newman Enterprises? Who harbored grudges that might now find fertile ground? The sudden rise of whispers about Sam McCall's clandestine negotiations, whispers about Victor's shadowy investments overseas, and rumors of Nikki's own concealed vulnerabilities, all seemed suddenly urgent. It was as if a spotlight had been trained on every secret and every lie ever told in Genoa City. Yet for every theory, there was an equal measure of doubt. Dumas's message, while unsettling, offered no specifics, only the promise of a midnight revelation. Would he choose to reveal a smoking gun of corporate fraud? A hidden paternity dispute? Or something far more incendiary, like a vendetta aimed squarely at the Newman legacy itself? As the clock struck 12 on the following Friday, all of Genoa City held its breath. In the stark glow of smartphones and the flicker of television screens, the city waited for the promised unveiling. And though Aristotle Dumas remained unseen, his presence was undeniably felt. The message he sent had already rewired the web of power in Genoa City. In a dramatic city where fortunes could change in a heartbeat, Dumas had shown that true influence doesn't always require a face to attach to a name. By leveraging technology, timing, and the weight of unspoken threats, he had asserted himself as a force to be reckoned with, and made it clear that when the veils of secrecy finally fell, no one would emerge unscathed. In the end, the only certainty was that Genoa City would never be the same, and that Aristotle Dumas, phantom mogul or not, had staked his claim at the heart of its unfolding drama. The normally unflappable Amanda Sinclair found herself pacing the marble-floored conference suite of Dumas Media's Geneva Street offices, her phone pressed tightly against her ear. At the other end of the line was Aristotle Dumas himself. The reclusive titan whose influence over Genoa City's corporate and political arenas had become little short of legendary. Amanda had spent the better part of the past week fielding repeated requests from the Winters clan, Lily Winters, Devon Hamilton Winters, and Nate Hastings, to secure an audience with their mysterious benefactor. Each time she'd had to repeat the same unfortunate refrain, "Mr. Dumas is not available for meetings at this time." Now, under the high ceilings of the Dumas penthouse boardroom, she braced herself as Dumas's voice, calm and measured, issued its latest directive. "I understand their concerns," Dumas said, his tone as cool as the Swiss air outside, "but I will not be swayed by demands or influenced by pressure. Let them wait." Amanda could almost hear the faint click of Dumas's private line going dead before she dared lift her gaze from the polished oak table. She knew better than to mistake that click for indifference. It was a signal that Dumas had just drawn yet another line in the sand. For Amanda, the challenge ahead was clear. She needed to manage the Winters' growing impatience without betraying any hint of vulnerability. She would reassure them that their interests were safe in Dumas's hands, even as she herself navigated the shifting currents of Dumas's enigmatic strategy. Word of Amanda's tense phone call spread through Genoa City's grapevine within hours. Staffers at Chancellor Winters Productions whispered about the obstinacy of their would-be ally. Speculators at the Society Row Café speculated wildly on what grudges Dumas might harbor against the Winters family. But behind closed doors at Newman Enterprises, the anticipation took on a sharper edge. Amanda's invitation to Nikki Newman's birthday gala, despite her tenuous ties to the family, was no accident. It placed her squarely between Dumas's hidden agenda and the full glare of Victor Newman's formidable presence. Fans of The Young and the Restless watched social media buzz with predictions. Would Dumas choose that glittering fate as the stage for his grand reveal? If his refusal to meet the Winters had been any indication, the answer was a chilling yes. As midday gave way to afternoon, Amanda fielded one last urgent plea from Lily Winters before her scheduled departure for the evening's preparations. "You have to tell me, Amanda," Lily implored, voice trembling over the line. "Does he really have designs on our company? Does he want to swallow Hamilton Winters whole?" Amanda, ever the consummate professional, paused only a moment before replying with careful neutrality. "Mr. Dumas is a shrewd negotiator, Lily. He evaluates every situation from every angle. Right now, his interest lies elsewhere. But that does not mean our position isn't strong." The line went silent as Lily digested the equivocal assurance. Amanda hung up and exhaled, steeling herself for the night ahead. She knew that everything she said, or omitted, would be dissected by both sides. Her role as intermediary had never felt more precarious. That evening, the Grand Horizon ballroom was aglow with crystal chandeliers and the soft shimmer of silk gowns and tailored tuxedos. Nikki Newman, radiant in ivory lace, moved through her guests with practiced charm, unaware that any guest, however esteemed, might be carrying a message capable of toppling empires. Amanda arrived fashionably late, slipping in through a side entrance to avoid undue attention. She wore a midnight blue sheath dress that contrasted sharply with the golden hues of the decor. As she accepted greetings from the Newman inner circle, her mind flickered back to the terse words she'd exchanged with Dumas that morning. He had instructed her to wait for the perfect moment, a phrase both vague and portentous. Now, standing discreetly near the buffet, she checked her watch, 10 minutes until midnight. Meanwhile, Victor Newman surveyed the scene from the elevated dais reserved for the family of honor. He exchanged courteous nods with board members and political allies, unaware that the very technology he considered his to command would soon deliver a message not of celebration, but of warning. In the crowded ballroom, whispers of Aristotle, Dumas, and mystery mega-mogul drifted like dandelion seeds among the elite. Few doubted that Dumas intended to make a statement. The only question was how, and when. Some speculated it would be a brief video clip, others wondered if he would use Amanda's opening remarks or perhaps a live feed from his hidden penthouse. One thing was certain, the element of surprise would be as integral to his approach as the substance of his message. As the birthday cake was wheeled in, complete with 30 candles flickering atop layers of vanilla sponge and whipped cream, Amanda felt the hairs on the back of her neck prickle. She melted into the crowd, her eyes fixed on the large projection screen above the dais. A final toast was raised, champagne flutes caught the light as Nikki's daughter raised her voice in happy birthday. Then, as the quartet began softly on For He's a Jolly Good Fellow, the screen lit up, not with cake-cutting instructions or slideshow of cherished memories, but with a stark, Arctic blue background bearing a single line of text in bold black type. Victor Newman, the time for half measures has passed. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Victor's face tightened like a steel trap closing. The music died on the lips of the string players. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Amanda straightened her posture, hands resting lightly on the cool marble balustrade, and prepared to speak on Dumas's behalf. When the initial shock subsided, the screen shifted to a brief montage. Unseen footage of Victor in tense negotiations, orders barked across boardroom tables, a slip of his hand revealing a hidden contract, then a close-up of his steely blue eyes. Over the muted footage, a voice, calm, deliberate, unmistakably aristocratic, delivered the charge: "Your empire was built on ambition and secrecy. You have mastered the art of influence, yet you have failed to anticipate the one variable you cannot control: consequences. By Friday, June 2nd, every transaction you have concealed, every ally you have betrayed, will be exposed to public scrutiny. Prepare to defend your legacy, or watch it crumble." The screen faded to black. A final symbol, a stylized A entwined with a D, glowed for a heartbeat before vanishing. Pandemonium erupted. Security agents surged toward the AV controls, only to discover that the system's logs had been wiped clean. Backup drives had been disabled. It was as though Dumas had reached across the digital divide to deliver a personal indictment and then vanished without a trace. Victor, regaining his composure, stood and addressed his stunned guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. I assure you, everything is under control." Yet even as he spoke, his voice concealed a simmering fury. Across the room, Amanda slipped away from the crowd, her role as messenger fulfilled, but her own future uncertain. She had carried Dumas's words into the lion's den, and now, like everyone else in Genoa City, she would wait to see how the embattled lion would roar back. In the days that followed, Genoa City was swept up in a frenzy of investigation, speculation, and strategic repositioning. Newman Enterprises convened emergency board meetings to audit every contract, every offshore account, every handshake that had ever been recorded on paper. Vigilante sleuths combed public records for anomalies. Gossip columns ran speculative profiles on Amanda Sinclair's fidelity. Was she a true friend of the Newmans or a secret agent provocateur? Lobbyists and lawyers lined up in the offices of Genoa City's most influential figures, each offering their services to prepare for the impending June 2 reckoning foretold by Dumas. Meanwhile, Victor Newman retreated to his private study, red pen in hand, determined to convert Dumas's warning into fuel for his own counteroffensive. He drafted statements for shareholders intended to reassure them of Newman Enterprises' stability. He placed a call to Nikki at their ranch home, promising her that he would meet this challenge head-on. And in a rare moment of vulnerability, he contacted Amanda, arranging to meet her in person, unsure whether to thank her for her loyalty or to demand that she cease serving a man who had just threatened his life's work. Aristotle Dumas's gambit had succeeded beyond his own expectations. By targeting Victor Newman so precisely, he had not only rattled the foundations of one of Genoa City's most formidable dynasties, he had also demonstrated that true power lies not only in wealth or visibility, but in the ability to wield information and fear as weapons of unparalleled potency. As the deadline of June 2 loomed, the city held its collective breath. Would Victor Newman emerge victorious, having defeated the phantom adversary who had dared to strike at his core? Or would Aristotle Dumas, the unseen architect of turmoil, prove that even the most entrenched empires can be brought to their knees by a single, perfectly timed revelation? Only time would tell, and Genoa City would never look at power the same way again.